What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Just made it to Taipei, but that's not really what's important because Bitcoin went through a catastrophic dump, especially after since Friday. And I'm sure a lot of you that are watching this video right now have, lost a significant chunk of money. I know this because, there were also a couple of guys inside. And based on what I'm seeing on Twitter right now, I can only assume that there are a decent number of you here that, lost quite a bit of money throughout this dump, especially if you were caught off guard. If that is you, I made a video actually a couple months ago, just detailing specifically how to deal with moments like this, because I've blown my account like 5 times in my life. And let me tell you, they all happened during like big liquidation events and they were not fun. And, back then I wish I would have had a video that kind of spoke to me and kind of gave me like a good kind of next step where I can work towards recovering my account. If that is you, I'm going to link that video down in the description box below. Now, but other than that, I'm going to get into the trade setup for today, and keep in mind that we have news, which means that even though today's Monday, it's going to be a pretty rare Monday where we're going to be able to get a decent solid trade in the books. So anyways, let's kick things off on the daily chart. Obviously, like we call this for the last couple of weeks. If you look at just my video thumbnails, right? Assuming you didn't watch my videos, just my thumbnails alone would have kind of pointed you in the right direction, where ever since we got in this CISD over here, it's looking pretty bearish. And ever since then, like, yeah, especially if you follow this channel, but also if you understand smart money concepts in general, you should have seen this dump coming. Like, it was forecasted all the way back in 20th of January. Like, there was a solid 2 weeks for you to, potentially sell all of your assets in preparation for this dump. Now, me personally, I'm mostly in cash at the moment, so not too affected. This entire dump here should not be a surprise if you understand anything about smart money concepts, especially also if you understand anything about the system that I have been using to achieve an 80% win rate over the last kind of year of publicly documenting these live trades. But outside of that, let's get into the trade setup for today. So far, the liquidity has been swept. Yes, I know that key levels have been swept, but that is no excuse and that is no reason for us to kind of ignore the fact that the market is pointing very bearish at the moment. And because we are super bearish, then yeah, we're going to be looking for shorts. In terms of the daily chart, super bearish. Now, let's take a look at another level that we could potentially tap today. That's going to be $74,400. So far, we almost tapped it. And right now, we're just going through some sort of a retracement. As you can see on the 1 hourly chart here, we're coming back into this bearish order block, potentially this bearish order block. Either way, this is just a retracement for price to further go towards the downside. And so the setup for today, guys, is like, it's as straightforward as it can be, which is you're going to be looking for a short sometime during 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., potentially 11 a.m. Why that time? Because that time is when you're going to get news. News today is at 10 a.m., which means the hour before to the hour after news is going to be your golden window where, most likely if we are looking for a 5-minute change the delivery to the downside, it's probably going to happen at that time. But don't get me wrong, just because that is the most ideal time, if this ends up happening anywhere between the New York Hill Zone, which means starting from 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., like 7 to 10 basically, if it happens around that timing where you start breaking lower in the 5-minute chart, that's already a trigger point for you where, today we've already gotten so close to that liquidity level that it doesn't make sense where we do not sweep this out today. Now, there is also an invalidation scenario there, because like one thing that I would love to do is not necessarily get too bought into any certain scenario, but rather to also prepare some contingency, right? In the event that, hey, I'm wrong, then I don't want to be forcing a trade where there is none. So in this case, I'm definitely going to be looking at a candle closure above $78,000. Like, this would not be ideal, but it wouldn't be the end of the world either. Like, as far as the invalidation scenario goes, a candle closure above 78,974, which basically is already 79,000. Like, you just don't want to see this happen. Like, for example, from now until, later during the news event, you start pumping, and you do not stop pumping, and, you end up getting situations like this, then yeah, probably that's like, today is just not going to be a particularly good day for trading. But outside of that, it's much more likely that you're going to get that 5-minute CISD sometime during the New York session. And that's like, yeah, the trade setup for today is super straightforward. In fact, if you take a look at news, 10 a.m., that's when you have news. In fact, I urge you guys to actually follow along this channel for the rest of this week, because there's one thing you need to understand. 2 things actually. One is that I've managed to achieve about a 75% win rate throughout like almost 200 publicly called trades since, last year. And this is all where the execution is just happening live on Twitter, as I'm calling it. Secondly, that win rate oftentimes comes around news days, or especially on weeks where we have a lot of news. If you take a look at the screen right now, we have a lot of news this week. Today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. These are all going to be very nice days for trading because the probability that we are going to get our setup is going to be that much higher. So if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe, turn on the notification bell because I make these videos every single day. And like, let's just say that we are one of the more profitable channels out there on YouTube because the people who follow the channel and actually take the trades, they make money. And if you're one of them, feel free to drop a comment down below just to kind of prove the haters wrong. But outside of that, Ethereum, very much a similar setup. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit and this is going to become the new intraday target at 21.14. And if we go into the 1 hourly chart, you can see that it is the exact same setup as Bitcoin where we are retracing into some sort of order block. So in this case, it is like you're just going to be doing exactly the same thing as Bitcoin. Nothing too much to discuss over there. In terms of Solana, we are looking at a bearish daily bias as well. But yeah, we have exactly the same target. So I don't think there's going to be too much that is different when we go into the 1 hourly chart. And yes, there is not much different. Guess what? When Bitcoin dumps, everything dumps in crypto. So like, setup for today, just short. To those of you that are thinking, is this a good time to buy the dip? No, the answer is no. Simply because when you are buying into a dip, you are buying with the assumption that you believe that this level is going to hold as some sort of support. But that's just what you think. That's not what the market is showing you. If anything, the market is showing you the exact opposite scenario where if the market's dumping, it means that it's in a downtrend. There's no other way to put it, right? It's dropping. It's forming low highs and lower lows. If you look at order flow, like, yeah, it's bearish. And if you've ever heard of the saying, the trend is your friend, or like trade with the trend, it's true. You don't want to be buying into a downtrend. You don't want to be selling into an uptrend either. If you've done that before and you've lost money doing that, guess what? There's a good reason why that happens. So no, this is not the time where you want to be buying the dip. I used to buy the dip as well and thinking that, I would always feel pretty smart for like a day or two. And then price would go much further into the red and I'll feel like an absolute idiot. And there would be nothing that I can do about it because, well, my position's red and I can either wait for it to come back, entry, or I can sell it at a loss. Either way, neither scenarios are good. A much better way to approach this is to just wait for the market to form, to get into a situation where it has bullish order flow. Just like how we did not start selling Bitcoin until we got confirmation that, hey, the day chart, you're getting bearish order flow. Same thing, right? In terms of Bitcoin or any altcoin. All you want to do is, for example, right now, this is the closest bearish order block that we have at the moment, which is not particularly close, right? Last week, we were pretty close, but ever since then, we dropped a solid like 10%. But once that CISD occurs, that kind of gives you an opinion, right? That kind of gives you an idea that, hey, the market is potentially shifting into bullish now. In fact, there is a clear sign that the market is showing, hey, it's shifting bullish. At that point, you can take a very calculated bet where you will enter somewhere within this block. You would have your stop loss underneath this recent swing low, and your target could be, on a mere $5,000 investment could be worth upwards of $50,000. Yeah, no. But yeah, it's just a situation where you get very asymmetric risk to reward. But yeah, I will be posting any of the live trades and updates on X today. And you can expect that for the rest of this week. It's probably going to be a pretty fun week. And obviously, Bitcoin's dumped. A lot of you have lost money. Now's a good time to really make it back. So let's make it happen. And I'll see you guys later on X. Ciao, ciao.